and we had a opportunity on Thanksgiving Day to fill in while Tom Hartman was on a replay for the day. So you hear the Sports Cubicle frequently on this show. And later on in the program, I'll tell you a little bit about what we got going on this weekend and kind of sometimes where sports intersects with politics. We try to cover some of that. And there's a story today where sports and politics combine, and that's President Donald Trump receiving the first ever FIFA Peace Award, which they are going to give out annually to someone that promotes peace and unity around the world. I know it's laughable, but we'll break that down a little bit later in the show. Some of the guests that we have on the show today, I've got Rodger Sherman coming up later in this hour. He is a sports writer. He is a content creator. He focuses on football, college sports, and the Olympics. Specifically, we're going to be talking about former Northwestern University football coach Pat Fitzgerald being hired by Michigan State University, a rival in the Big Ten. But Rodger's got some thoughts about that, and we're going to be talking to him. In the next hour, I've got John Parker from The Gaily Show, which The Gaily Show, I believe today was the last time that you'll ever hear it on this station at 5 a.m. Central. Starting next week, it'll be at 10 p.m. Central that we'll be carrying that Monday through Friday. But I'm going to be talking to John about maybe that, but more so about how ICE is now going to be in Minnesota and how that's going to affect the Twin Cities and what everybody's feeling up there in Minnesota with this happening. In the bottom of the next hour, I'm going to talk to Read Showalter, and if that name sounds familiar to you, I actually had the opportunity to talk to him the last time I hosted for Patti, in which he was running for Congress in I believe the 8th district or the 9th district. I don't have that in front of me, but today we're not talking about his campaign specifically. We're talking about how Netflix is reaching a deal to buy Warner Brothers for $72 billion. So we're going to get to that one. Some of the other top stories, like I said, Trump receiving the FIFA Peace Award, Netflix agreeing to buy Warner Brothers. Frank Gehry passed away at the age of 96, a famous architect. If you're like, I've never heard of that guy, who's that guy? Well, if you've gone downtown to Millennium Park, specifically to see a show, a concert at the Pritzker Pavilion, he designed it. And it's got like the speakers overhead and those like beams that kind of cross overhead, and it's just his style. I'm not a great architecture critic or an art critic, but his style is sort of this like, I guess, asymmetrical sort of. He sees sort of a different form and a different structure than what the common styles have been, and his work is all around the world. The Walt Disney Theater in Los Angeles, like I said, the Pritzker Pavilion downtown, the Guggenheim Museum in Spain, all sorts of different things, but he passed away today at the age of 96. Another story, sources say the January 6th accused pipe bomber Brian Cole believed that the 2020 election was stolen. And I'm sure that's going to be an ongoing development as this person's being investigated. And when it eventually goes to trial, if this is the accused and if this is the one that is going to be on trial for those pipe bombs, I think it's going to be an ongoing debate with the finger pointing from both sides as to who is indoctrinating whom. But it circles back to January 6th where, we all said it and Donald Trump denies it, but his words have meaning. And the accused, Brian Cole, apparently took his words to heart. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, Indiana House passes the Trump gerrymander, and now it will head to the Senate where in Indiana, where we see what happens with that. But of course, we know the Supreme Court is entertaining the Texas gerrymandering map. We know that California is trying to gerrymander their maps. We know that Illinois is trying to squeeze out more Democratic districts, if that's even possible in this state. But a gerrymander war seems to be on the rise, and Indiana is taking their part in it today. The other thing is the Supreme Court has agreed to decide whether or not President Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship is unconstitutional. I think the obvious answer would be yes, but in April they're going to argue it, and then by next June they should have a result for that. So those are some of the things that I want to talk to you about. Of course, like I said, the number here is 773-763-9278. That's 773-763-WCPT. We're going to talk about those stories and whatever's on your mind. And to get the ball rolling, we're going to talk to a regular here, Jim from Chicago. He wants to talk about that Trump Peace Prize. Jim, how you doing?
Yeah, hi, Paul. But as I mentioned, first of all, the Supreme Court has already adjudicated the gerrymandering in Texas. They're going right with it. They overrode the other court. And they said you can gerrymander away.
Which is going to be crazy because now I just feel like it just opens the doors for California, Indiana, everybody.
The Democrats have to act in kind. That's all. Anyway, we know what's going to happen there. But how about Ripley's, believe it or not, giving Trump a Peace Prize? Now, let's just go over this for a minute. He's murdered 80 people in the Caribbean. Almost 90 now.
Mm-hmm.
The one woman was shot 5 times in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Another gentleman was killed in Franklin Park, shot to death.
Mm-hmm.
At least, the last I count, at least 20 immigrants have died in custody.
Yeah.
He aided and abetted the genocide in Palestine. He hasn't lifted a finger to help the Ukrainians.
Yeah,
and he's the corruption. The corruption is just insane. How many people has he pardoned that were thieves beyond our record? I mean, beyond all comprehension. These people stole. One guy stole. He sold 100 billion tons of cocaine. His brother's doing 99 years. He said he got railroaded. Anyway, I mean, this goes on and on and on and on. But they give him a Peace Prize. But it's I don't even know what to say. You've got to give him something, I guess. Now that he's fading out, he's got to have dementia. He certainly sounds like it. But they got to give him a prize everywhere he goes. The Swiss gave him something. I mean, everywhere he goes, he gets a prize. And,
I mean, you have to appease the president.
I mean, but it's like I don't even know what part of history it would be. It would be like, I don't know. The monarchs maybe hundreds of years ago that you had to come with some kind of a gift, or you couldn't show up.
It very much has that feel that they're entering into the kingdom and they're not invited into the palace if they don't bring something to give to the emperor. We all know that missing out on the Nobel Peace Prize. This guy needs some sort of consolation. So FIFA invented something new.
God love him. Anyway, Paul, I was going to mention this. Now, I had a couple buddies. One pitched in the majors, and the other was going to the majors. And we were at a party. This is 1970.
Okay.
And anyway, the kid was in the majors for a year, and the other kid, they pitched together in college. And the guy, my buddy that I grew up with, he had 10 times the stuff this kid had, but this kid got into the majors, and he was going to go up that next year. But I was thinking they were arguing about money. They said, you get paid. That's the most important thing. And this kid get paid. He got like a $300,000 bonus from the major league team. But now that I think about it, I wonder if I would have said to him, how about a wild pitch in the 6th inning?
You're talking about manipulating for a prop bet or something?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, though, think about it. What is a wild pitch? What are the odds on a wild pitch? It's got to be 12-1.
I suppose if you find someone that takes that action, I mean, we know that there was examples of this past summer with the Cleveland Guardians had a couple of pitchers that were implicated in a gambling scandal and have since been charged with that.
But it was pitch. It was a pitch over 94 miles an hour. That was one of them. And the other one was another pitch. It was a single pitch. So
I think it was like he needed to pitch a ball, but the batter had checked his swing and went around, and he was visibly upset about that. And
right.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you would know better than I would, Jim. If you had done that back in the day, it's a different landscape nowadays in the sense that it's totally legal for us, you and I, to bet on these games. But in 1970, I would imagine that nobody, one, it wouldn't be legal, and two, who would take action that specific to, all right, the 4th pitch of this batter in this inning, that sort of thing.
No, I know, but they will now because That's the way it is now. Yeah, but you could, go pitch by pitch or whatever. It's Star Spangled Banner, and you get better than anything.
Oh yeah, and amongst that, recently LeBron James snapped his streak of scoring 10 points per game, and I had seen that somebody thought it was easy money to bet $15,000 to make only $500 on the bet. But then he lost it the other night because James didn't get his 10 points. So now this guy's out $15,000 because he thought it was an easy 500.
I've seen that happen many times ever since I was a kid. I mean, the lay odds like that. But the point is, corruption's on the rise all over the place. I mean, you've got Netanyahu looking for a pardon. He's taken millions and millions of dollars from billionaires and stuffed the money away. You've got corruption all over the planet. And it just seems to be on the rise. I've never seen corruption so. I mean, now, Paul, the difference is now this money that they steal, it's amazing amounts of money. I mean, Trump has made about, at least he's made over $1 billion on his crypto scheme. His kids made $2 billion from the Saudis. They get $80 million a year just on the interest of that. So think of the money, the corruption, though. And so, I mean, this corruption is everywhere, Paul. It's everywhere. I've never seen it so epidemic as it is now. Anyway, you have a great show, and I don't know. What about the Bears game? What do you think of that? That's going to be a good game.
I like the Packers in that one. I don't know what the spread is. I think largely just because it's at Lambeau, and I think
I like the Packers. I like the Packers in the game, but I have to admit, and not because I didn't pick the Bears at all, but everybody's been playing better, so I don't know what's going to happen there, but it should be a good game. And anyway, you have a great weekend, Paul, and thank you for taking my call, buddy.
Thank you, Jim. Always great to hear from you. And to kind of back that up, the Packers are 6.5-point favorites as I'm speaking here on Friday night. The line opened up as Packers as a 5-point favorite. In my opinion, I'd take the Bears and the points. While I think that they might lose the game, I think it'll be a close game. And who knows? I mean, I thought, you heard it here on the Sports Cubicle on Thanksgiving. Our entire panel thought it wasn't going to be close between the Bears and the Eagles, and the Bears ended up winning that game. So my prediction, for what it's worth, I was off about that one. I know I've told Jim earlier in the year some successful sports betting tips, but that's the way I'm looking at this one. I think if you've got the Bears plus 6.5 points, take it, but don't expect them to win. And if they do win at Lambeau Field, I always said for the last month that, despite all the Bears' other games that they've played this year, the games against Green Bay are going to be the true litmus test. So we'll see at Lambeau Field this weekend what the Bears are made of, and if they truly belong at the top of the NFC North Division. But that's enough from me right now. We're going to get to more of your calls coming up in the next segment. This is Paul Chivari filling in for Patti Vasquez. We're driving it home right here on WCPT 820, as well as KKNW Seattle. More in a moment.
Think Theory Radio.
We're joined by Allie Mae Miller, hypnotherapist.
Hypnosis is portrayed in media in general. Manipulation, mind control. People think it's like a truth serum. My clients describe it as they're in control the whole time. It's definitely not a truth serum. The client decides what they share with me, even in a state of hypnosis.
Think Theory Radio with Damian Perdue. Saturdays at 6 p.m. on WCPT 820. This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or
and Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
And it's Paul Chivari filling in for Patti Vasquez today. I believe she'll be back on Monday. She's currently in New Orleans right now. And everything is okay as far as I know with Patti in New Orleans. We hope for a safe return. We want our Patti back in one piece. In the previous segment, we were talking a lot about sports, and I just want to alarm you guys that I am not just a sports guy. I will talk about some other stuff with you, but it's up to you guys to call me, 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, because we can talk about all sorts of different stuff. Like it will be more sports heavy in the bottom part of this hour when I have Rodger Sherman on. But in the next hour, when we talk about ICE and Minnesota and President Trump's extreme focus on Minnesota with John Parker from the Gaily Show, and then Read Showalter talking about this Netflix and Warner Brothers deal that is going to change the face of streaming as we know it, should that go through. And why Reed is a good person for this is he's dealt with antitrust lawsuits or anti-monopoly lawsuits in his field, as well as now he's running for Congress, and that's going to be part of his campaign, that his expertise in this is going to be beneficial on the federal level. But I wanted to take care of some housekeeping. I want to let you know that I need a quick favor from you guys, from our listeners, especially the folks who helped spread good information. If you've ever shared something you heard on WCPT or read on heartlandsignal.com, maybe a clip, maybe a story, a moment that cut through the noise, we want to hear from you. We're building a network of people who help their communities stay informed, and you might already be one of them. It only takes a couple of minutes, and if you fill out the survey, you can enter a drawing for one of 5 $25 Visa gift cards. Just go to heartlandsignal.com/share and tell us how you pass information along. Again, that's heartlandsignal.com/share. You're a big part of how trustworthy pro-democracy news actually travels, and we want to learn from you. So please participate in that. Also, I want to let you know that Edwin Eisendrath tomorrow has Lavora Barnes, Melissa Sanchez, Bobby Kogan, and Rachel Leingang joining his show tomorrow. It's the Democracy Stupid. Saturdays from 1 to 4 p.m. on WCPT 820, heartlandsignal.com, and TuneIn. And if you're confused, yes, it used to be called The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, but we've rebranded, and it's now, just like his Substack, it's called It's the Democracy Stupid. Great title. But yeah, we were talking a little bit about Trump receiving that peace prize from FIFA today, the promoting peace and unity. And that's right. I think caller Jim brought up a lot of good points of how much blood is on the hands of the Trump administration. Just more so, leading with all of these alleged cartel members or drug smugglers that are being bombed in the water outside of Venezuela. We still have yet to find out how much drugs they were carrying, who these people are, who they're affiliated with. So for now, innocent until proven guilty, the guy that's killing people or authorizing the killing of people outside of Venezuela is checking notes, promoting peace and unity, according to FIFA, the organization that overlooked several migrant workers' deaths when they were building all of those facilities in Qatar for the 2022 World Cup, as well as some of the other sketchy things that happened at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. So, while it might be upsetting on some level that FIFA is giving awards to Donald Trump, look at the source. It's FIFA. They aren't exactly the cleanest bunch there. And my speculation is that the president, Gianni Infantino, he's probably trying to do things to appease Donald Trump. He already has visited the Oval Office and gave the president the first ticket to the events next summer in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Seat 1, row 1 at whatever stadium, this giant. It looked like one of those novelty checks that a charity might receive. Trump got this big ticket from Infantino earlier in the year. And, of course, Trump was with Infantino at the Club World Cup in the United States last summer, in which Chelsea Football Club from London ended up winning the whole thing. And Donald Trump helped Infantino not only give away the medals, as one normally does, like the FIFA president or the governing body of that soccer event, but, and then the head of whatever state is hosting that event, but he was also in the celebration photo and trophy lifting with Chelsea, which confused a lot of people because that is not a normal situation. But Donald Trump always trying to wedge his way into things. And, he had talked about how changing some of the locations of the World Cup, which, this goes so far, the planning in the months, years leading up to it, and Trump was calling for, well, maybe Los Angeles shouldn't be hosting any events, in which the United States is going to be opening their schedule on June 12th at Los Angeles when they play Australia. And then they're going to be, on the 12th when they play Paraguay. And then they'll be circling back there a couple weeks later when they play either Turkey, Slovakia, Kosovo, or Romania, whoever wins that playoff tournament in March, to get that final spot. So a lot to unpack there. But yes, today they determined who the World Cup, what the schedule is going to be, what the groups are going to be. And that was today at the Kennedy Center in Washington, where this all unfolded, as well as Trump receiving this big award today. So that's just kind of a little bit of that story for you. In case you wanted to know, Mexico is going to be playing South Africa on June 11th in Mexico City to start their version of the tournament, or their side of the tournament. Normally, the World Cup will have the host country kind of lead off things with the games, but this year is the first time since 2002 that we've had multiple host countries for the tournament, with the United States, Mexico, and Canada. So I'm sure Canada as well is also going to have an early start as well, just like the United States and Mexico do. But yeah, June 11th in Mexico City, it's going to be Mexico versus South Africa. That was the same fixture, the reverse of it, that started the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. South Korea is going to be their next opponent on June 18th, and then they'll get North Macedonia, Denmark, Czechia, or Ireland for their last opponent. As far as the group of death, that's always kind of the joke when these soccer tournaments come out. What is the group of death in the World Cup? And just kind of looking at it this year in the World Cup for 2026, it's either going to be Group L or Group I for me. Group I is France, Senegal, Norway, and then we still have yet to determine the playoff on that one, the FIFA 2 playoff. But otherwise, Group L, England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. Those to me look like the toughest ones yet. And as far as the easiest one, defending champion Argentina has Algeria, Austria, and Jordan, who's making their first appearance in the World Cup in Group J. So there you go. If you wanted it or not, there's your FIFA World Cup update from me. But coming up, I've got Rodger Sherman, sports writer, joining me. We're going to talk specifically about former Northwestern coach Pat Fitzgerald being hired by Michigan State University in the wake of a hazing scandal that took place at Northwestern. So we're going to be talking to him about that, and maybe I can get some FIFA stuff out of him, or maybe some 2028 Olympic stuff out of him, as that's part of his expertise. Want your thoughts as well. 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT. We're on WCPT 820 as well as KKNW Seattle. More in a moment.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Cloudy tonight with a chance of snow and freezing drizzle. Not much in the way of accumulation, but we'll see some slick spots here and there. Temperatures fall back into the mid-20s. On Saturday, we'll see cloudy skies with a high temperature of 29 degrees. Sunday, 1 to 2 inches of snow with a high temperature of 29, and northwest winds at 10 to 20. Monday, partly sunny with a high of 24. Tuesday, cloudy, high of 37. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 27.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter. Out Chicago.
Kiddos, we all need to find the courage to stand up to people when they say things that are completely wrong. Like what Governor Pritzker said, we need to get ready when they sound that 5-alarm fire. We all need to be up there with buckets to douse the flames.
I'm ready.
I am too. This flamer is ready to douse the flame, and I never like to douse my flame.
Catch Out Chicago every Sunday, 11 to 1 on WCPT 820. You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
Welcome back to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
And it's Paul Chivari filling in for Patti Vasquez today. She will be back on Monday. But right now, I I wanted to talk, as everyone knows here, I'm the sports guy here at WCPT 820. I host the Sports Cubicle with Devin Tingle, Mike Mercado, and Dan Marver every Sunday, 9 p.m. Central, right here on WCPT 820. But this was actually brought to me by our executive producer here, Andy Miles. He said, I've got a great sports writer for you, and he wants to talk about how Pat Fitzgerald was hired by Michigan State. And that was actually like a blurb that I wanted to talk about on the Sports Cubicle last week, but ran out of time. So this is a perfect opportunity for it. So today I welcome Rodger Sherman. He is a sports writer. He's got his own Substack. He's a content creator. He focuses mainly on football, college sports, and the Olympics. And he joins us right now today. Rodger, thank you so much for joining Driving It Home.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
So, we'll get right into it. Pat Fitzgerald, a local hero here in Evanston, Illinois, Evanston being the closest Division I college city to Chicago when it comes to football. Pat Fitzgerald left in disgrace after the hazing scandal came out a couple of years ago, which he's since been, I guess, completely not linked to. However, it's a bad look when a head coach has this scandal going on right underneath his nose, but then he gets hired by Michigan State, who's an in-conference rival, if you will, and now it almost seems like it's all in the past and this isn't going to follow Pat Fitzgerald, but I know that you've got some qualms with that, Rodger, so go ahead and kind of give us your background on Pat Fitzgerald and why you're feeling the way you're feeling.
Yeah, I went to Northwestern, and I got there in 2008. He'd been the coach for a few years. And you got to understand, he was the face of Northwestern football. Was the best player in school history, was the winningest coach in school history. He was there for almost 20 years as a head coach before this hazing scandal came about in 2023, and was then very quickly fired. And it was kind of stunning, because everyone was like, what would Northwestern football look like without this guy? But he sort of, as head coach, his entire thing was that Northwestern was this incredible place, and he was building exceptional men, and he was a leader of men, and he was very focused on the culture, as so many college football coaches are. And then in 2023, you find out that this culture has, for years, featured extensive, disturbing hazing from the players. And that sort of lifted a big veil and made it clear that not everything was as it seemed. And then 2 years later, he's already being hired by another school. There was, as you mentioned, a settlement proving that he did not. Well, not proving. The settlement was that he cannot be proven to have known about these events, and therefore could not have been fired with cause by Northwestern, and he received a payout, and therefore was kind of given free rein to re-enter the world of college football without disgrace. There's no evidence that he knew about this thing going on. But you've got to raise your eyebrows a little. And college football has always been very quick to forgive the great leader when maybe they haven't lived up to their supposed values.
Absolutely. We've seen countless coaches leave a program in shambles only to, have a clean slate, somewhere else. Bruce Pearl comes to mind when it comes to that type of thing. There's just certain coaches out there that seem to leave programs in a worse state than they found it. It seems weird to me. I saw former Michigan State football coach Mark D'Antonio is friends with Pat Fitzgerald, and he released about the hiring with Michigan State. He had a quote about it and said, Coach Fitzgerald has been a proven and outstanding leader and was a staple in the Big Ten Conference for many years. He cares deeply about young people and their development on and off the field. And it goes on from there. But I find that's just such a kind of a thoughtless statement by D'Antonio, because even if Fitzgerald wasn't directly involved in the scandal or didn't know about this scandal, I think it speaks volumes that if this guy is such a great leader of a program, how did he not see this happening? How is he not responsible even if he wasn't directly involved?
Yeah. That's the whole thing about this sort of myth of the coach over the years, that they are this force on every aspect of the players' lives except when it becomes inconvenient. You know, the college football coach has always been like given this position of incredible authority where they are, you know, obviously in charge of the football team, but also they're in charge of recruiting the players. They get penalized if the players aren't making their academics, at least in the past from the NCAA. You know, it's like they're supposed to be in charge of everything. And then all of a sudden, if something does go wrong, sometimes they find a way to not get blamed for it. And that seems to be what's happening here. You got the sense he was like actually a pretty hot commodity in the coaching market this season. There were reports of a lot of schools reaching out to him. Michigan State almost seems to have kind of won a little bit of a like competition to get him to be their head coach. People were very quick to forgive, even though it seems like it was a betrayal of what he supposedly stood for. But, I mean, at the end, people looked at the fact that he won so many games at Northwestern, and Northwestern is not a school that typically wins a lot of games. And they're like, okay, we're just going to ride with that.
And I kind of like the notes that I got for this going into it. Fitzgerald, you know, outside of Evanston, it's kind of a surprise to see him get, you know, be such a popular candidate because, you know, he'd only won 4 games and lost 20 in his last 2 seasons with Northwestern. But, you know, and it's like, I get the idea that, you know, this was a guy that played on the legendary Rose Bowl team 30 years ago, you know, so he's like a local hero for Northwestern. But I feel that Michigan State is not going to embrace him right away the way he was in Evanston when he decided to become a coach.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. He was like the face of Northwestern football, like the first person anybody would think of. And like as you know, Northwestern, like you said, close to Chicago, probably still somehow not the most popular college football team in Chicago. There's probably more fans of just about every other Big Ten school. There's probably more fans of Notre Dame. It's not a school that had ever won. And all of a sudden, this magical guy comes along, and he leads them to the Rose Bowl as a player. He becomes this rock of the institution. But at the same time, you look at his resume, and you know his whole life was at Northwestern, and his whole shtick was that he was sort of in charge of building the culture there and getting these guys who are these great students and great athletes and getting them to come to this academic institution and build a winning football team. And it was very much centered around the idea of, I did this here. And it's like, honestly, just kind of funny for me to imagine him doing it anywhere else, because you can't pull the same, I lived it, and now you can live it too thing if it's at a place that you haven't been.
We're speaking with Rodger Sherman, a sports writer who covers college. He covers football. He covers the Olympics. Rodger, Pat Fitzgerald, too, is kind of famous for also being part of, you know, his players in 2014 tried to famously unionize. Do you know where he stood on that when I'm trying to remember the quarterback who was kind of leading that at the time, but I remember.
King Coulter.
Thank you. Yeah. And I want to say he was like a pre-med student at the time.
Yeah. It was like, you know, there have been so many changes in college football over the years. And Pat Fitzgerald, in recent years, and Pat Fitzgerald felt like was always against them, was always against the change. When Northwestern unionized, I was like pretty excited as a fan because, I don't know, I always thought that the players should be making some money instead of just playing for free when the school is making so much money. And I was like a little bit proud. Hey, this is happening at Northwestern. And Pat Fitzgerald was so against it. I mean, I don't think you can legally classify it as union busting, but he was definitely like, he definitely tried to dissuade his players from unionizing, and ultimately they did lose an appeal at the NLRB and were not allowed to unionize. But it's so like there's this sort of old. I think everything you can tie it together. Like, there's this old school model of college football where the players weren't paid. They were just supposed to be grateful to go out there and, play and get a degree. And Pat Fitzgerald really kind of stood for that, for this model where the coach was in charge. He's this great man. He's this great leader. And it's all about the culture, and you are there for the program, and you are, happy to be a part of it. And in recent years, that's totally changed. I mean, now you can get paid to play. You can transfer schools pretty much as you want. Pat Fitzgerald was probably not a big fan of the transferring. He was so like, you are going to live for Northwestern. You are going to be a part of Northwestern. And it just strikes me as so, like, part of the reason, like you said, he won 4 and lost 20 games in his last 2 years. And I feel like he's just not built for this era when players have a little bit more power.
And that's a great example in 2014, how he wasn't supportive of the unionization effort. And since then, we've seen, House versus the NCAA has been settled and how that's changed the landscape of things. And as well as the transfer portal, even before that, how almost on a year-to-year basis, you have a huge changeover in your roster. So gone are the days of the old school recruiting methods that they had. And I think, kind of to your point, Rodger, what you're kind of saying is that Fitzgerald never really embraced that newer model. And so this is going to be a little bit of like maybe a learning curve or something that's going to challenge him a little bit more going to a new program in East Lansing, Michigan.
Yeah, and I don't mean to like draw too like close of a parallel, but it strikes me as the same mentality of like someone who doesn't necessarily feel that their players should be allowed to receive payment or doesn't necessarily feel like they should be allowed to switch teams and like when you think about the idea of the hazing scandal that kind of asked these players to dehumanize themselves to be part of the team and to like take away their agency in that moment. It's like I think there is a connection there, and the things that I knew about Pat Fitzgerald's sort of retrograde views on whether players should be allowed to make a little bit of money or empower themselves like in the sport of college football. It sort of strikes me as why that seems a little bit plausible to me. It also strikes me as why now in this more modern era when players are allowed to take advantage of those things, players are not going to want to play for him as much as they used to.
And of course, with Big Ten being as challenging as it is, it's got to be just so cutthroat nowadays with all of the teams and all the competition that they have there now that... sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's like, Michigan State seems so eager to have him because he does have this career as a winner. And I think people in 2025 are so often like trying to uncancel people and, what do you like? He didn't even necessarily do anything wrong. We should give him another chance. But like, I think that the scandal is sort of connected to why he wasn't connecting in an era when players are allowed to express themselves.
I think we've seen people take a bigger fall for less. I think, it's always like the person in authority, if something happens, whether they're directly involved or not, it still falls under their jurisdiction or their authority that, well, if how can you be viewed as someone that's such a good coach and a leader of a program if something like this happened regardless of your involvement? So it just tells me that either he knew about it and did nothing about it, or he really was clueless as to what was going on in the program that he's in charge of. And either way, it's a bad look.
And I think the people who think they only care about football, that this will work out from a football perspective and we should pass that aside, I think they might be surprised because it turns out there is a connection there. Players will be aware of this thing that happened. Players might not want to play for someone who isn't pleased about the fact that they're making money. Players might not want to play for someone who will look down at them for transferring into the program or transferring out of the program. And I think he was a coach. He's a coach from a different era and for a different era. And I think it all comes together, and we'll see what happens. But that's the way I look at it. Is he was his skill set was so useful at Northwestern at the time that it was, and I'm not sure. I think that time may have passed.
I saw that you also cover other sports as well, including the Olympics. I don't know if FIFA's World Cup falls under that sort of purview, but did you have any opinions about President Trump receiving the first ever FIFA Peace Award today?
I think there should be another award for like the world's biggest suck up, the world's biggest brown noser, and we could give that to FIFA President Gianni Infantino. Just his willingness to, whether it is Vladimir Putin in Russia, whether it is the government in Qatar, whether it is Donald Trump, no matter who is hosting the World Cup, he will go so far out of his way to, just embrace whatever that person is doing. And he knew that Donald Trump wanted a Nobel Peace Prize and wasn't getting it, so he was like, I will literally invent a prize to make this go over better. It's kind of like the amount of times that the president of FIFA has been just kind of weirdly stood in the Oval Office giving Donald Trump a trophy over the last year and a half is really, really mind-bending. I guess it hasn't been a year and a half. It's only been since January.
It feels like it's been longer, though.
It feels like longer. Yeah.
I guess, I wonder, though, with Gianni Infantino, though, how much of this sucking up is to try and just calm the fires that Trump seems to be starting in terms of, well, I feel like certain cities shouldn't be hosting this event, and, more so like Los Angeles. Is it Infantino just trying to calm Trump down so that they don't have to scramble and then reorganize this tournament, or do you think there's something else at play?
I think he might just be a suck up for the love of the game. He's a very greedy. He's a very greedy man, and he knows that FIFA will make a lot of money from the World Cup going smoothly. And you might be right that he is trying to get ahead of that and make sure that he doesn't have to switch all of the games to Republican-controlled cities, which, by the way, there aren't that many of.
No. I don't think people want to go to Tulsa for a World Cup match. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
I mean, yeah, well, I'm not sure they have a stadium.
That's true. Yeah,
so
that is true.
We'll see.
Hey, he is Rodger Sherman. He's a sports writer. He's got a Substack. You can go to rodgersherman.substack.com. That's spelled RODGER Sherman. Rodger, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
That's Rodger Sherman. We talked a little bit about Pat Fitzgerald, and we talked a little bit about FIFA. We want your thoughts, your calls, 773-763-9278. That's 773-763-WCPT. More of Driving It Home coming up.
Coming up this Sunday on the Sports Cubicle.
An inductee of the 2026 AHL Hall of Fame. He's the vice chairman of the Chicago Wolves. He's Wendell Young.
But what's it like now making it into the AHL Hall of Fame? What does that mean for you?
It's an accumulation of a lot of things, and it's a nice validation, not just for myself, but everyone that's helped me in my career.
The Sports Cubicle this Sunday, 9 p.m., right here on WCPT.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn. Union Strong Chicago continues to lead the way with progressive values and in preserving democracy. Your support of the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC efforts in Wisconsin and beyond strengthens the fight against MAGA Republicans. You can now purchase progressive beers like Labor Lager, Love Wins Fruited Sour, and the Resistance IPA in Chicago at Rogers Park Provisions, Diversey Beer, Wine, and Spirits in Lakeview, Park West Liquor, Wine, and Beer in Lincoln Park, Logan Square Liquors, and Tip Top Food and Liquors in Westtown. Visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for all their Chicagoland locations. As always, no matter how bad our sports teams are, please drink responsibly.
No detours, no distractions, just bold ideas and real talk. This is Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
And it's Paul Chivari filling in for Patti today here on Friday, December 5th, 2025. Patti's going to be back on Monday Her guests are going to be Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, immigration attorney and CEO of Lincoln Goldfinch Law in Austin, as well as a newly announced candidate for the Texas House of Representatives. And she's also going to have Dan Tully, a candidate for Congress in the 8th District of Illinois, and he'll be joining Patty in studio. You can listen to, rate, and share. I didn't know you can rate. Please rate us good. You can rate all these episodes of Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez, the full episodes of the Featured Interview podcast. They're both available on Spotify, Apple, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, and Amazon. The latest additions to Patti's Featured Interviews podcast are Indiana State Rep. Ed Delaney, Oklahoma State Rep. Suzanne Schreiber, Max Winkles of Kenosha Dems, and Minnesota Lieutenant Governor and candidate for U.S. Senate Peggy Flanagan. Search for Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez or visit our brand new podcast page at heartlandsignal.com/podcasts. This first hour has been very sports heavy, and well, I'd like to apologize for that. They did bring me on, and there is a lot of stuff in politics and sports, so I suppose I might be the right guy today to talk about some of this stuff. But I see we also have somebody on the line that is good to talk sports and politics, and that's Roosevelt, who calls in frequently to the station. Roosevelt, what's on your mind today?
First of all, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever.
Merry Christmas to you. Thank you.
You guys stole some of my thunder here, but let me back up first of all.
Sure.
Were you one of the people that predicted that Philadelphia was going to beat the Bears by like 10 points?
Oh, we all did, yeah. I think I even had it even more lopsided with that, so I was wrong. But I also did say it did have the makings of a trap game, so that's my out clause, I suppose.
So here's a magical question: who are you picking this time?
I think Green Bay will win, but I think taking Chicago, I think at Lambeau take Green Bay, but Chicago plus 6.5 points looks like a good bet to me.
Okay, that sounds good.
So I think a close one. I think they lose a close one, but like Soldier Field could be a better game for them. Or the weird thing is, this seems like it's one of those things where the away team is going to win this matchup. You know, so Bears this weekend, and then 2 weeks from now, Packers come into Soldier Field and win. But we're used to the Bears losing to the Packers, so I think that's the mindset. That's the way we're prepared for it. They're both really good teams. But I think we're going to know who the Bears are after these next couple of games against the Packers.
In my opinion, not that you asked, but in my opinion, the best defense, the most takeaways or interceptions or whatever you want to call it, takeaways, is going to win the game. And that's the Bears. So I'm picking the Bears because of that factor. Nobody's paying attention to that defense. That defense is awesome.
And that defense got better as the year went on, too.
I was just going to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. But here's the difference. Everybody's paying attention to how much improvement the quarterback is week after week, but nobody's paying attention to that defense. They're also improving. They put, they got tricks, from out of the bag, put it that way, in my opinion. So, but let me jump on the FIFA thing.
Okay.
I mean, two entities that are corrupt, because let's just face it, from, I believe, 2010 and 2015, there's nothing but corruption as far as FIFA is concerned, as far as I'm concerned. Getting votes to where these games are held and all this and that. So,
the previous two hosts, Qatar, which had tons of migrant workers dying under their watch, and Russia, which we all know, Vladimir Putin and Russia, where they stand.
Yeah, exactly. So because go ahead.
I was going to say, you may like this news, you may not like this news based on my predictions and how bad I am at them, but I truly think that Mexico is at a clear advantage in Group A to be the favorite out of that group and maybe make a deep run in this tournament and maybe be the first North American team to make it to a final.
Total agreement with you. Total agreement. But here's the thing that I don't like about this is the fact that because you just introduced politics, everything, in my opinion, is going to be suspect. Now, there's a strange thing that just happened a little while ago, or maybe a couple of hours ago. Trump actually said something nice about the president of Mexico. Something is up. It can't be right.
Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico. Yeah, they were all at them and the Prime Minister, Mark Carney from Canada, were all at the event today in Washington at the Kennedy Center. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. After the Zoran Mamdani Oval Office visit, and of course, even leading up to that, anything that Donald Trump says or means can be a total 180 the next day based on how he's feeling or who's kissed the ring recently. So that's kind of odd that he'd say nice things about Claudia Sheinbaum, but nothing is real anymore to me, Roosevelt.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and then here's the thing. A no-no is, as far as I'm concerned, is to mix politics with sports. Yeah. Because everything, as far as I'm concerned, everything is suspect now. Because I don't know why Trump is doing this with the president of Mexico. And to put it bluntly, why would FIFA do this? And in your opinion, do you think that this is going to be the norm now, that there's going to be other entities in sports that are going to say, hey, we got to give him something. We got to offer him something.
Yeah, I think it sets a precedent, whether it's Trump or somebody else. Exactly. I think it sets a precedent. But as far as FIFA and the World Cup goes, I don't think Argentina ever truly has won the 3 World Cups that they've won. So that gives you my hot take on politics and sports.
Point. Yeah, that's an excellent point. But back to this thing going on with FIFA and everything. To me, like I said before, something is up. Something is up. There's too many strengths. It's funny you mentioned Mandani because it's exactly what he's doing with the president of Mexico. The exact same thing. He said so many bad things about her that, now, and you know what's funny? When he sees a person face to face, he's a different person. You know what I'm saying? In other words, it's good to do it while you're away. In other words, you're in another country. And he does the same thing with the guy from China. What's his name? The president or whatever.
President Xi,
President Xi. He did the same thing with him. Because remember when he took that trip, he says, the tariffs are going down. Because he was meeting them the next day in person. So...
and let's not forget what they did to poor Vladimir Zelensky this year. It went from berating him in the Oval Office to just making nice with him and a bunch of European leaders a month or two later.
And one more thing I wanted to end with this. I mentioned the NFL with the Bears and everything. Do you think they're going to get any traction when it comes down to trying to make it a worldwide sport because they've had games, to be specific, in Mexico, Brazil, Europe, you name it? Do you think they're going to take over soccer at one point in the future?
I think they're trying to, but I think you and I both know just how popular soccer is in the world scheme of things. It was the 2022 World Cup final between Argentina and France had 1 billion viewers worldwide, and the most people to view a Super Bowl I think is somewhere in 300 or 400 million. So. I think that's the goal of the NFL, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see either a team based in a different country outside of North America, or a Mexico City or Toronto team, or a Super Bowl being held outside of the continent of North America. It's maybe a London Super Bowl, but I don't know how that'd work out with you'd have to do an earlier kickoff or get some sort of curfew rules or something. But I know this has been a goal of the NFL for a long time. But Roosevelt, I got to let you go. I got to get into the next hour here. Thank you so much for calling. This is Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez, Paul Chivari filling in. Coming up in the next hour, I've got John Parker from the Gaily Show and Read Showalter. Stick around.
Steel. Check off the wish list with instant savings and free battery offers on select Steel tools. Shop online or in store. Now that's a steal.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. President Trump's been awarded a Peace Prize. Pai Panjwani reports it came from FIFA, international soccer's governing body.
Mr. President, this is your prize. This is your Peace Prize. There is also a beautiful medal for you that you can wear everywhere you want to go.
President Donald Trump has become a close ally of the soccer organization. The Peace Prize ceremony happened during the 2026 World Cup draw at the Kennedy Center in Washington. It comes after Trump had openly campaigned for the Nobel Peace Prize, which was awarded to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. FIFA President Gianni Infantino had said that he thought Trump should have won the Nobel this year for his efforts to broker a ceasefire in Gaza. Trump spoke when he accepted the award.
The world is a safer place now. The United States 1 year ago was not doing too well, and now I have to say we're the hottest country anywhere in the world, and we're going to keep it that way.
Audio courtesy of Fox Sports 1. Hayat Panjwani, Washington.
The Supreme Court's agreed to take up the constitutionality of President Trump's order on birthright citizenship. It says children born to parents who are in the U.S. illegally or temporarily are not American citizens. The justices will hear Trump's appeal of a lower court ruling that struck it down. The restrictions have not yet taken effect anywhere in the country. A federal vaccine advisory committee has voted to end a long-standing recommendation that all babies get the hepatitis B vaccine on the day they're born. Instead, they recommend the birth dose only for babies whose mothers test positive for hepatitis B. For others, it'll be up to the parents and their doctors to decide. Netflix has struck a deal to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, bringing together two of the biggest players in TV and film. The Fed's preferred inflation gauge changed little in September, prices up 2.8% over a year ago, and stocks closed out a quiet but winning week with modest gains. This is AP News. A dozen games in the NBA tonight, including the Lakers in Boston. Last night, LA was in Toronto, and Gethin Coolball reports.
LeBron James' streak of 1,297 consecutive double-digit scoring games has ended. On Thursday night, the NBA's career points leader scored only 8 points in the Los Angeles Lakers' 123-120 win over the Toronto Raptors.
I won't make that a habit, though.
James had a chance to extend the streak on the final possession, but passed the ball to Rui Hachimura. Hachimura's three-pointer sealed the win as time expired.
I'll just make the right play. That's all that matters. Win, lose, or draw. You make the right play. The game guys will always give them back to me.
James threw his hands in the air in celebration. He said after the game that he had no thoughts about the streak ending.
None. We won.
I'm Gethin Coolball.
There's more news at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Cloudy tonight with a chance of snow and freezing drizzle. Not much in the way of accumulation, but we'll see some slick spots here and there. Temperatures fall back into the mid-20s. On Saturday, we'll see cloudy skies with a high temperature of 29 degrees. Sunday, 1 to 2 inches of snow with a high temperature of 29 and northwest winds at 10 to 20. Monday, partly sunny with a high of 24. Tuesday, cloudy, high of 37. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 27.
Hey Progressives, it's Richard Chu, host of Chu's Views weekdays 6 to 8 a.m. Central. We're all anxious for the 2026 midterm election to arrive so we can restore some sanity and much-needed oversight to our government. In fact, it's the most important midterm election in American history, and Chu's Views will be in the thick of it, bringing you candidate interviews on a regular basis. I'll be talking to Democratic Party hopefuls running for House and Senate at the federal and state level, as well as candidates for governor and other state and local offices.
I am in love with our ability to fight for our rights, to fight for our future, to fight for our freedoms, to fight as our ancestors fought. It's just our moment. This is just our time to stand up and to speak up. We can't give up on this.
If you miss any of the interviews live, you'll be able to find them all on WCPT's Candidate Interviews page at heartlandsignal.com/candidates. That's Choose Views weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
It's actually Paul Chivari filling in for Patti Vasquez, but never fear, she's going to be back on Monday with some guests in studio as well as on the phone. But today, filling in, it's a sports-heavy show for some reason. I guess that's because I'm the host or co-host of the Sports Cubicle on Sunday nights here on WCPT 820. And in the last hour, we talked about Trump receiving the FIFA Peace Award and the World Cup draw, as well as Pat Fitzgerald and how he was ousted out of Northwestern due to a hazing scandal that he was not directly involved in, as it was found out, and then was recently hired by a conference rival, Michigan State University. And before I move on here in the second hour to the non-sports part of it, and talk to John Parker of the Gaily Show, which you can hear right here on WCPT 820, as well as AM 950 Progressive Minnesota, who joins us for the second hour of Driving It Home. I wanted to get this caller. I saw on the screen, I ran out of time in the last hour when I was talking to Roosevelt. I saw this caller, Michael from Chicago. He disagrees with my guest, Rodger Sherman, about Pat Fitzgerald, and I definitely want to give Michael the chance to air his thoughts on that. So, Michael, please let her rip. What did you think?
Okay, well, Paul, thank you very much. First of all, your so-called expert doesn't understand the legal process and what the settlement and the statement that Northwestern agreed to make, because it was a settlement, so they agreed to make it, exonerating Pat Fitzgerald. Exoneration that means, Pat, you had nothing to do with it, and your guest glossed over that. And it's one of those, and you said it yourself. Well, if you didn't know about it, you should have known about it, and that's a big argument with cases like this. But you have over 100 young males involved in your program, and to understand what they do every minute of every day. Now, while I agree he's the head coach, you can't babysit 100 different males once they leave the practice field. But more importantly, with this, which your so-called expert didn't bring up, is at the end of every year, all football players would fill out an anonymous survey, which is reviewed by a non-athletic department member of the faculty, where they get to, how was your year? What did you do? Pros, cons. Never in the 14 years that Pat Fitzgerald was a coach there was it ever mentioned about hazing. Secondly, when the seniors graduate, they have a face-to-face interview with a non-athletic department member of the faculty at Northwestern. And in the 14 years, maybe 13 years that Pat Fitzgerald was the coach, never once was hazing mentioned. So I'm not exactly sure the motivation of your guest, but facts matter, as you report in your radio station. Well, facts matter because now, if you want to get rid of Pat Fitzgerald because he won 4 games in 2 years, that's one thing. But if you want to get rid of him because there have been allegations, and by the way, at this time they're merely allegations from several what I would call disgruntled athletes, and why for some reason it's a good idea that he got bounced out of Northwestern. Well, remember, if facts matter, the original investigation done by Northwestern also exonerated Pat Fitzgerald. Then they came back and said, well, wait a minute, upon further review, you're out of here. While the athletic director for Northwestern was sitting in Europe.
Okay.
So if facts do matter, these are very important facts that go into whether or not Pat should have known or didn't know. And by the way, I've never met him in my life, just so I have no vested interest in it. I have an issue with so-called experts making certain assumptions, and your expert made a lot of assumptions. The second assumption, the second set of assumptions your guest made was whether or not Pat would transfer over to this new age of transfer portals, NIL, things like that. And one, you wait to see it. The truth will be told once he eventually recruits at Michigan State, which he should have fewer handcuffs on him, at least academically. And again, I'm painting with a very broad brush at Michigan State than at Northwestern. But this is the way college athletics is going. And I think the world will know, and I think Pat Fitzgerald will know, if he's cut out for this new world of college athletics, with respect to the easy movement through the portal and the payment of students. There's a reason why Saban is no longer coaching at Alabama, because he determined very early in his career, or very early on in the process, this is not meant for me. I'm out of here. I'm done. I had a great career, but this NIL portal stuff is not the way I want to go about coaching. And the last point, and I apologize for taking up too much of your time, is the unionization of Northwestern players, which I do have some fairly significant direct information on. Never once did Pat Fitzgerald ever make a statement in public, in print, anywhere where he was prohibiting players, where he was, making a condition of their playing time or anything to do with the union. He left it up to the players, as he should have, and the process took out. So many assumptions were made by this guest. Again, I don't understand his motivation, quite frankly. I don't care. But at the end of the day, if facts matter, then these are facts that your guest omitted in his description of the situation surrounding Pat Fitzgerald. And again, if you want to fire a coach for winning 4 games in 2 years, well, there may be some fodder there. But if you're harping on this hazing thing, which is still allegations at this time, I think he was way out of line. And again, I understand the purpose of having guests is to generate discussion, but I think these discussions need to be confined to facts, not unsupported opinions.
Thank you for the call, Michael. Those are all great points, and I wish you were called in a little bit earlier, but this is why I wanted to get to your call with, your points about Pat Fitzgerald. And you're right that he was exonerated, but at the same time, I feel like just there's always a fall guy in these situations, and regardless of his involvement, whether it was direct, indirect, or not at all, this happened underneath him. But you raise a good point, though, about that survey and that the players never brought this to his attention or never had bad things to say about him in that effort. And really with my thing, it's just more, can he handle being at a program at Michigan State and with the addition of, University of Southern California, UCLA, Oregon, all those schools. It's a tougher conference than the one he was coaching in a couple of years ago. So it's just going to add a little bit of pressure. But like you said, you're saying you're painting with a broad brush. He probably won't be handcuffed academically like he would be at Northwestern, which could bode well for him in transferring students or recruiting students that might not have great grades but great athletic skills. So thank you for the call, Michael. I do have to move on here, and I'm sorry to keep my guest waiting on the line for so long. John Parker from the Gaily Show, which you could hear today. You heard at 5 a.m. Central, but starting next week, you're going to hear at 10 p.m. Central on WCPT 820. John, I'm sorry I kept you waiting on the line so long. Thank you for joining the show today.
Yeah, no problem. I learned a lot just now.
So whether you wanted to or not, yeah. But no, the first hour of the show we did like a very sports focus, just with some of the stuff that was coming up. But I wanted to shift to now the political portion of the show. It's just kind of the way it worked out today. And you're based out of Minnesota, the Twin Cities. We carry your show here Monday through Friday, and we're going to be moving it to that new time slot next week. But lately, Minnesota has been in the headlines a lot with President Donald Trump, with ICE, and just everything going on. So wanted to touch on that before we hit a break here. Just kind of, I guess, like the first thesis point, I guess. Do you feel that a lot of this has to do with Ilhan Omar or Tim Walz as far as like Trump's motivation putting Minnesota in his focus right now?
Ooh, that's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm hitting you with a really
equally and for so long. He's had it in for Representative Omar for a long time, and I think that her response on social media this week, and I'm blanking on which platform it was, but she's like, it's really creepy how obsessed he is with me, and I'm paraphrasing there. But it's been a really long time that he has been going after Representative Omar. I think he stepped it up with Governor Walz after the election last year. I don't think he even knew about Governor Walz, frankly, or thought about him that much, except for the when Walz told him not to send in the army when we were having the riots here in the Twin Cities after George Floyd's murder. So, yeah, it's kind of a both-and situation at this point.
I'm going to hit a break here, and then we can kind of talk about it on the other side here. It's just the kind of the way it worked out, and I apologize about that. But yeah, I mean, it's...
I got time.
Perfect. Let me go ahead and hit that break. We got John Parker from the Gaily Show. We'll have more on Minnesota and all that stuff going on right here on Driving It Home.
A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
In case you missed it when it happened a couple months ago, I wanted to take a minute to hit on the new blood pressure guidelines from the American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology. Now, normal blood pressure is still considered less than 120 over less than 80. Elevated is 120 to 129 over less than 80, and high blood pressure now is 130 or higher over 90 or higher. According to the new guidance, your healthcare provider should now encourage lifestyle changes before you reach the official threshold of high blood pressure. Those include maintaining or achieving a healthy weight, eating a heart-healthy diet, consuming less salt, managing your stress, and getting the suggested amount of exercise every week. Now, if those things don't work in 3 to 6 months, then medication could be recommended. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now, there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team. Build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Vasquez, we appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Minocqua Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Armanetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lions Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
From city streets to political beats, you're driving it home with Patti Vasquez. Where progressive talk fuels the ride.
And it's Paul Chivari filling in for Patti Vasquez. We're driving it home today, Friday, December 5th, 2025. We want to thank AM 950 Progressive Minnesota, who joins us in the second hour alongside WCPT 820 and KKNW Seattle 1150 AM. And from AM 950 Progressive Minnesota, I've got John Parker from the Gaily Show waiting on the line, who's been so gracious and patient with me today as my show keeps getting bumped later and later. And before we went to break, John, we talked a little bit about, who's in Trump's view more so. Is it Walz? Is it Omar? And of course, with Governor Walz, the social services fraud scandal that that took place. I'm a little unfamiliar on it, but I know that I believe there was a Somali immigrant, or at least someone that emigrated from Somalia, that was kind of in charge of this school lunch scandal, and it's just a bad look. $1 billion of fraud that was in Minnesota. How has that affected what is going on with the Trump administration and Minnesota, and how much is that being talked about right now in Minnesota?
Yeah, so the scandal is more far-reaching than that. It affects multiple state agencies, and as much as it was led by a group of people who were of Somali, who are Somali, the Walz administration, their handling of this, particularly when you see major media outlets like the Minnesota Reformer, the Star Tribune, who are investigating into what was happening there and started to raise red flags about it and were summarily dismissed by the Walz administration. I mean, this is going to be a huge problem for him, and there's a huge accountability problem, and they're trying to sort that out right now. It was a federal investigation, essentially, that forced the hand of the state officials, and it's going to be a problem for him when it comes up to his reelection campaign. And already the MAGA House Speaker in Minnesota, she is running for, Lisa DeMuth is running for governor and is already, hitting him at it. So it's kind of a twofer for Trump, frankly, and he's sort of hit home on both of those. But the fraud scam that happened is one of the main reasons why he was saying that he didn't want any more Somali people in the country anymore. So that he was sort of scapegoating hundreds of thousands of people off of what a handful of people essentially did. And it's not, as a resident of Minnesota for the past 14 years, it's kind of jaw-dropping how ugly and wide-ranging this fraud was, and also how there wasn't any oversight to deal with it and to catch it and to shut it down. So, yeah, sorry, I could keep going and going and going on this one, so you're going to have to cut me off on that.
No worries. And I'm glad you brought up House Speaker Lisa DeMuth. I guess we saw the pendulum swing towards the Democrats in the most recent election. And, whether that's people's distaste of the Trump administration so far, not even a year into part two of his regime, or if it was then the government shutdown. But this is also like a Minnesota House that, or it was the Senate last year that had that like tie. I'm kind of trying to remember this exactly, but it was like someone was elected to break the tie, but they wouldn't see them through, or they were withholding that certification. I want to say I might be a little off on the story here, but you know what I'm talking about with they wouldn't. Yeah, it was going to break the tie, but they were trying to hold on. The GOP was trying to hold on to it in Minnesota. I guess where I'm going with this is the GOP hasn't won a statewide race in almost 20 years and seems to be struggling, financially with the fundraising, and then with that controversy in the Senate most recently. Do you think that Minnesota voters, though, would be kind of the distaste of what the GOP has done so far would lead them to still continue to vote blue?
I don't think it's particularly on a statewide basis. There are some folks that will try to claim that Minnesota is a toss-up state. It's not. Like you said, a Republican or MAGA candidate hasn't won statewide race since 2006. In Minnesota, at the end of the 2022 cycle, they had literally $53 in the bank. That's how poorly mismanaged the GOP is here in Minnesota. And they weren't able, MAGA wasn't able to reclaim the Senate last year. It was the House that ended up in a tie. So there were some suburban districts that flipped to the Republicans last year. But it's just not a strong party here in Minnesota. So, and I think that the Democrats and we call it the DFL here, it's the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, is in a strong position, despite the fact that Walz is going to have to do some heavy lifting here regarding his campaign and how they're going to handle the investigations into this, fraud scandal. But I'm pretty optimistic for Minnesota coming in next year that we will, because we're having, there's another election, obviously, for the state as well in 2026. And I'm still pretty optimistic because the Democrats in Minnesota have been focused on affordability. Like everyone now is suddenly like affordability. Well, the Minnesota Democrats, the DFL party, has been laser focused on this and had an absolutely phenomenal session when they controlled the House, the Senate, and the governorship a couple years, 23. And it was the most progressive, transformational session in a generation, and it was all pocketbook issues, and it was all affordability. And so I know that the Democrats, and particularly the progressives here in Minnesota, are often like, what do you mean the left doesn't care about affordability? Have you looked at the record that the DFL has done here in Minnesota? So I also kind of hope that the national folks take a look at what Minnesota's been doing and say, hey, wait a minute, they've got it going on right over there. They are actually legislatively delivering on the affordability, healthcare, and costs, and electricity, all of those things. So, yeah, I'm still pretty confident in the left and the progressives here in Minnesota that we're going to hold the line.
With the DFL being, a farm and labor party, just with all the things going on with the plight of farmers in the United States and maybe as well as in Minnesota, do you think that's having an effect on just kind of charging up voters to vote for the DFL rather than Trump or MAGA candidates coming up here?
Ooh.
I guess, is it something that's being discussed a lot?
To farmers?
I'm sorry?
Do you mean specifically, you want to talk specifically about farmers?
Yeah, specifically farmers, I guess, if that's just something that, if the party is just kind of maybe leaning into trying and highlighting that the GOP has kind of failed the farmers of this country, and if the Minnesota DFL is highlighting that going forward for their next election cycle.
Yeah, so Minnesota was hit hard by the failed negotiations around soybeans. Soybeans are a really big thing here in Minnesota, and the Trump administration claims that they got a deal done in October, November with China, because China usually buys all the soybeans from the U.S., or a huge portion of them, and as of October, they hadn't bought any of them. And so the Trump administration claims that they've got something on the table where China's going to start buying soybeans again at the rate that they were doing in 22, 23, and 24. But that isn't necessarily manifesting right now. And everything that was written down, supposedly, at the summit in Korea wasn't actually binding.
Oh, wow.
So now there's like, oh, well, they say there's a deal on the table, but nobody actually knows if China's going to follow through on the deal. And so, we'll see how that plays out going forward. I know that Governor Walz tries to do everything that he can to reach out to the farming community here in Minnesota. And I know that Representative Angie Craig, that's a big issue for her as well, because that's one of the committees that she serves on in the House, and she's also running for Senate right now. So I imagine the two of them are going to be doing a lot of outreach to farmers. They did put all in. I mean, I'm just going to be honest, throughout the Midwest. I don't know the numbers in Illinois, but I know for sure in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, farmers went all in on Trump, and between his ICE raids and then the soybeans, and he's having a really, really negative effect on farmers. And we'll have to see what happens in 26 if they're actually going to dump him or not.
He is John Parker. He is the host of The Gaily Show, which you can hear starting on Monday at 10 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday. But we've carried this show at 5 a.m. before. John, now that at least in Chicago you might be having a different audience that's more of a nighttime audience rather than an early bird audience, what would you like to tell people that maybe have not listened to The Gaily Show, what your show's about and what it offers to your audience?
Oh, absolutely. So we were talking a lot about Minnesota right now, but we do have a partnership with Chicago's Windy City Times, and their managing editor, Jake Wittig, was just named the Journalist of the Year by the Chicago Journalists Association for 2025. And so he joins us on a biweekly basis to give us all of his award-winning reporting. And then we try to augment that as well, talking about how national headlines affect queer community in Chicago and allies, right, as well. I think a lot of folks might think, oh, this is just a show for folks living in the rainbow. And I'm like, no, actually, allies have a lot to do here in the show that we do on a daily basis. But we also, very excited, we just started a partnership with the new White House correspondent for the Washington Blade in D.C., so Joe Reber-Kenny. And he is literally reporting from in the room in the Oval Office, and he joins us bi-weekly as well. And also, we have a partnership with Dallas Voice, their managing editor, Tammy Nash, who is in Dallas, Texas, which has been amazing because she's been able to keep us up to date on all of the, shall we say, shenanigans happening in Texas related to the maps. So we are trying to do because we're the only ones. We're the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in the U.S. And so we're trying to be very mindful about how we're creating partnerships and lifting up good journalism and good talk and having conversations around how the community can, come together in a period where it's really bad. Like it's for Project 2025, the Trump administration has already accomplished 10 of the 15 objectives targeting the LGBTQ community that were listed in that document. And they're already working on 4 more, and they haven't started one of them. So they came out of the gate after us, and we're trying to be mindful on the Gaily Show that, our liberation is tied in with the liberation of, everyone right now. And we're trying to find out ways of how do we build community that's beyond just the rainbow. And so that is what folks can look forward to when you tune in at 10 p.m. Central weeknights on WCPT 820.
Well, John, thank you so much. And, congratulations on the new time slot. I know we've been carrying you for a while, but it's a new thing. So maybe a new audience that is introduced to you. But loved having you on today to talk about all things Minnesota and LGBTQ. Would love to have you on again if I get this opportunity again. Thank you so much, John.
Yeah, Paul, for sure. I'm sorry I missed the segment about the so-called Peace Prize. I'm a World Cup fanatic, so I would have gone all in on that with you.
Oh, had I known, I would have offered up some questions. But yeah, you know how it goes. Well, for next time, John. Now that I know that FIFA is up your alley, I'll be sure to ask you some questions about that next time.
For sure. Thanks, Paul. Have a good rest of your show.
You too. That's John Parker, host of The Gaily Show. Like I said, starting on Monday, December 8th, it's going to be on at 10 p.m. Central. Normally it was on in the mornings before Richard Chew, so you have to wait later in the day or perhaps record it or check out our podcasts. Of course, you can hear it weekday afternoons at AM 950 KTNF in Minneapolis. Got to hit a break right now here on Driving at Home, but coming up, Read Showalter. He joined me the last time I was a guest host. He's on this time to talk about a different subject. Netflix looking to buy Warner Brothers for billions upon billions of dollars. We're going to talk about that here on Driving at Home.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Cloudy tonight with a chance of snow and freezing drizzle. Not much in the way of accumulation, but we'll see some slick spots here and there. Temperatures fall back into the mid-20s. On Saturday, we'll see cloudy skies with a high temperature of 29 degrees. Sunday, 1 to 2 inches of snow with a high temperature of 29 and northwest winds at 10 to 20. Monday, partly sunny with a high of 24. Tuesday, cloudy, high of 37. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 26.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. In the summer of 1881, 2 decades after the Civil War, 20 African-American laundresses met at a local church in Atlanta to form the Washing Society, a trade organization which looked to create a higher uniform wage and greater work autonomy for laundresses, also known as washerwomen. Through the help of local preachers and door-to-door canvassing, the Washing Society grew from 20 members to 3,000 in only a few weeks. The workers went on strike and faced opposition from their employers as well as the local politicians. The Atlanta City Council proposed a licensing fee for their organizing efforts. Strikers agreed to the fee in exchange for self-regulation. In the end, the City Council rejected the proposed fees and the laundresses prevailed. The impact of the strike led to increased wages for some, but showed that African-American workers, including women, were vital to the New South economy. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
Tell you're doing, really. Tell me that you missed the bus this morning, your rent's past due, and your stress level has skyrocketed. I'm here for you, to listen, not judge, to connect you to local mental health resources. No matter what you're going through, specialists like me from NAMI Chicago Helpline are here for you. Call or text Helpline to 833-626-4244. That's 833-626-4244.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
And it's Paul Chivari filling in for Patti Vasquez. She will be back on Monday. First hour of the show, very sports heavy today. That was kind of by default, kind of just what's going on in the news, keeping it politics related here in the second hour, or at least with the business related here in the second hour, because I got Read Showalter, who joined me the last time I was here. He's running for Congress in Illinois' 7th District, but today he's here to talk about how Netflix is interested in buying Warner Brothers for $72 billion. And Read is a perfect candidate for this, to talk about this today, because after earning a degree from New York University, he worked in financial regulation at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, going after traders that gambled with people's livelihoods. During law school, he worked at Chicago Legal Aid, defending people's right to housing, and after graduating from Columbia University, he worked in Congress on the Judiciary Committee staff. He continued working in public service as an attorney at the Federal Trade Commission, a counsel in the U.S. Justice Department, and a senior policy advisor in the White House National Economic Council. Read, thanks again for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Paul. Thanks for having me.
So the news kind of just broke that Netflix has agreed to buy Warner Brothers for $72 billion. And Netflix is already, I think, 40% of the streaming market. With this acquisition, not only would they get Warner Brothers Studios, but they would get HBO Max, another streaming service. And that would put them somewhere over like 55% of the share of streamers if they got control of this. And I know that this is something that even the Trump administration is kind of balking at, which is kind of crazy because they're the pro-business administration. But this falls under some weird territory with monopolies. And give us your thoughts on, just one, if you think this is going to follow through, and two, how much would this change the shape of entertainment if this were to go through?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the thing that I want to highlight at the top here is, as you said, this is the top one and top three biggest streaming companies in the country reaching a deal to combine with each other. It gives unprecedented control over the types of media that people see online on streaming. And that type of control is really concerning. It's concerning enough that, as you said, you've even got the Trump DOJ starting to balk at it. But it's not just the concerns that we see for people watching streaming. It's also what this means for workers. Does this mean for actors, for writers, for directors, the types of people who do the storytelling in our lives, and the ability of them to get a fair wage and make stories that are compelling and interesting and not sort of trapped in the consistent consolidating pressures to make things, sequel after sequel and things that only serve financialization goals. So this is it's a huge problem. This type of consolidation, we've already seen many of the risks for. It tends to lead to huge job cuts. It tends to lead to less releases of good content, less high quality media being produced, fewer and lower wages and roles going out to actors, and basically a streaming economy that looks worse for all of us.
And if the merger of Warner Brothers and its three bidders would probably succeed even if the Department of Justice were to sue to block a proposed combination, according to Deutsche Bank. But I want to say, isn't Paramount kind of involved here? Because they sent a letter to Warner Brothers Discovery this week, which was first reported by CNBC, which argued that the sale process had been rigged in Netflix's direction, which Paramount said in a Netflix transaction would likely never close because of the regulatory headwinds. If I remember correctly, wasn't Paramount kind of also involved a few months ago in one of their sales and just the controversy behind that? I guess I'm wondering what they have to do with it, or if this is just something where they also wanted to make some sort of sale to grow their empire as well.
Yeah, I think this is there's two stories here. I think this is the long story of media consolidation. Every year we watch more and more media companies buy each other up because regulators and enforcers for a long time were asleep at the wheel. And it is why we see things today like giant networks bending the knee and taking Colbert off air and temporarily taking Jimmy Kimmel off air because they are trying whatever they can to assuage the Trump administration, but also to find additional ways to control media narratives. And the bigger concern that ends up happening here is when you have consolidated media markets, that type of choice of who you put on air looks a lot more like censorship when you've only got 2 or 3 other options. The Paramount specific angle on this is, they've been trying to grow whatever their control over the market is for a long time. And they did what is kind of the standard MO for companies trying to get a deal passed in this Trump administration. They hired a former Trump official to try to get their deal through. And much like many of the other deals that have come before this Trump administration, it seems like they were maybe getting their hooks in. Maybe you hire the right person, you pay the right person close to Trump, and your deal could potentially go through. The thing that sort of swooped in at the last second was this huge bid from Netflix for $72 billion, which, looking at this as an antitrust attorney, outside of whatever the politics are, that's a crazy risk to take. If I were in private practice, I can't imagine this actually getting cleared by any courts, by any regulator looking at this, or by the states who are looking at this. And I think what they're betting on here is that because the Trump administration has just shown itself to be so pro-business to a fault, and not just that, if you are willing to basically pay the right lobbyist who can cozy you up at Mar-a-Lago, then you can get basically any regulatory approval. They're thinking they can probably just squeeze this through, and suddenly they are the dominant streamer, the dominant producer of media, and we are left with a media ecosystem that's more consolidated and more easily censored.
You were talking about how these consolidations tend to eliminate jobs, and we've seen other media companies consolidate. Disney and Hulu have their combined sort of streaming services. And I think what everybody has seen, at least on the consumer end, as a result of some of these conglomerates forming, the subscription prices tend to go up, and the loser ends up being the person that's paying to be entertained by these services. I would imagine, and you could maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that a combination of Netflix and Warner Brothers, with HBO involved, would only drive up the prices even more for something that's already increased in price so much over the last few years.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of this is just a story of what power companies have over people to charge them. And we've got perfect analogs for this. Just a few years ago, there was an attempt for Microsoft to buy Activision. This is in the gaming space. And they promised up and down as they were being sued, actually, that they would not raise prices for their games and they wouldn't lay anyone off. And lo and behold, that deal was approved in 2024. And since then, the price for their subscription game service, which I think is sort of the analog here to subscription streaming services, went up very substantially. And on top of that, they laid off almost 11,000 of their workers. So the two promises they made, saying that this is going to be good for the markets, it's going to make sure that prices are low for people, and that it's going to create jobs, fell through. Not just fell through, they went in the exact opposite direction. And I can't imagine how we look at the promises that giant companies like this make every day and say, just approve our deal, just let us be 60% of the market, 80% of the market, 100% of the market. We promise we'll do the right thing. When every time that happens, we watch as jobs fall through and prices go up.
He is Read Showalter. He joins us today to talk about the possible sale of Netflix picking up Warner Brothers and all of their properties for $72 billion. But coincidentally, Read Showalter is running for Congress in Illinois' 7th District. Read, I know we talked last time about your campaign, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but any updates on your campaign? How are things going? How's the campaign trail looking? And what would you like to tell people that are interested in your campaign?
Yeah, the campaign is, it's fantastic. There's a lot of energy on the ground here, and people care about the things that I'm talking about with you, Paul, but also what I have stressed more generally is we're in an affordability crisis. And this is one example of it. Streaming is an example that people maybe don't think about, but housing, healthcare, food, the things that are really core to your life, those costs are going up. And it's for many of the same reasons, because we have allowed corporate consolidation to go out of control, haven't made a government that works for people. And our campaign is really building a head of steam on that. We've got a ton of volunteers. We have dozens and dozens of interns from the local colleges who are excited to see people talking about this and speaking to the issues that are in their lives. And we are gearing up for a primary on March 17th of next year. It's going to be cold, but if you can come out, it'd be great to see you. Before that, if you want to hang out, if you want to volunteer, if you would like to chat, I'm around. We've got a campaign office out at 302 Madison, and we are there every day, and we are doing the work, trying to make sure that we are both serving the community and getting our name out there.
With the recent cold weather, has that offered any sort of hindrance to the door knocking or all the stuff that you guys have to do? I mean, it's a rough election cycle here up in Illinois when you got to slog through the winter in order to get to that March primary.
Yeah, no kidding. We have the benefit of, one, we're Chicagoans. We're used to this. I've been doing competitions of growing nose icicles in the winter since I was 5 years old. And so all of us know how this works. But also, we've got people whose passion is far outstripping whatever the weather could do. So people are out there. We're knocking doors when it's too bad. You know, when we get 9 inches of snow in 3 hours, maybe we'll move inside for some phone calls. But the rest of this, you know, we know how it goes. This is Chicago winter. We're born and raised here.
Reed, is there any social media or any events or anything you'd like to send people to help your campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are actually doing a little holiday party at our office. It is it's next week on the 11th, actually, it's in a few days. If you want to come by, we're doing a little thing. We're doing a toy drive as part of that too. So if you've got a toy that you want to go to a family that maybe doesn't have the resources to bring as much holiday magic this year, we are making sure that we are collecting those and giving them out to people who need it. That again is Thursday the 11th it's at 6 p.m. And it's going to be at our campaign office, 302 Madison. Would love if you could swing by, check us out, or you could just go to our website. It's www.read4congress.com. There's all sorts of opportunities to volunteer and get involved.
Reed, thank you so much for joining me again on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
He is Read Showalter. He graciously offered up his opinions and expertise on the antitrust aspect of Netflix purchasing Warner Brothers, as well as discussing his campaign as well. Always love to have Reed. We got the final segment coming up here on Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez. Paul Chivari filling in.
You know that you can listen to Chicago's Progressive Talk on WCPT AM 820. Stream us live at WCPT820.com and on the TuneIn Radio app. Or you can ask Alexa, Siri, or Google to play WCPT from TuneIn. But now you have another option. We're simulcasting our programming overnights. 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. on WSBC AM 1240 for a clearer reception in and around the city. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. And now overnights on WSBC 1240 AM, where facts matter.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while you're clutching your blanket in the dark, wondering if that sound in the hall was actually a footstep, the real danger is in your hand, when you're behind the wheel. And while you might think a great white shark is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward, don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Let's take a moment to breathe. Deep inhale. Extend your spine. Remain focused on what you're doing. If safe to do so, exhale slowly, leaning to one side. Inhale back to center. If safe to do so, exhale slowly to the opposite side. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org. This message is brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
And it's Paul Chivari here in the last segment of the day for Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez. So this is your chance to get in on the show right now, 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT. That's, of course, if you're listening to us on heartlandsignal.com or TuneIn or WCPT 820 over the airwaves. And if you're listening on KKNW Seattle 1150 or AM 950 Progressive Minnesota, sorry, we're just not live for you right now, but we thank you for listening and joining us. Earlier in the show, we had one of AM 950 and WCPT's own John Parker from the Gaily Show. That's going to be at 10 p.m. Central Monday through Friday, starting this Monday. We just talked to Read Showalter, who is running for Congress in Illinois' 7th Congressional District. And we talked to Rodger Sherman in the first hour, a sports writer, to talk about the Pat Fitzgerald hazing scandal at Northwestern and his recent hiring at Michigan State. But I want to talk about what you guys want to talk about in these last few minutes here. You heard me prattle on about Donald Trump winning a made-up peace award from an already corrupt sports body, which is FIFA. You heard me talk a little bit about Netflix trying to purchase Warner Brothers for $72 billion, including all of the Discovery streaming services. I briefly touched on Frank Gehry passing away at age 96, one of the brilliant architects who designed the Pritzker Pavilion, as well as, I believe, one of the walkways at Millennium Park right here in Chicago. And the January 6th accused pipe bomber Brian Cole, sources are saying that he believed the 2020 election was stolen, which leads to my thing that Donald Trump's words apparently do have actions, because here we are 5 years later and nobody has proven that the 2020 election was stolen, which is quite a bold claim to make and not offer any sort of evidence. Seems rather un-American if you ask me, and very yellow-bellied if you're the type of person that wants to believe that. Nobody's stopping you from offering enough evidence, and nobody's stopping Donald Trump from opening up an investigation or a panel to try and prove this outrageous claim. So I don't buy it. And I think it's one of the most unpatriotic and un-American things you can do to hold the highest office in the land and lie about your opponents. So we'll see if that's a developing story from then on. Wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping for you. Joan Esposito was off today. She had Turi Ryder in for her, but Joan will be back on Monday. She's going to have Army Major General Randy Manner, former acting vice chair of the National Guard Bureau, joining her, and that's live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. Central on WCPT, 8:20 a.m., heartlandsignal.com, and TuneIn. And Richard is going to be off. Richard Chu is going to have Michelle Peltier filling in for him on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. She's going to have regulars Shara Jones, Rich Logis, and Kurt Mullet to join her. Choose Views is heard weekdays 6 to 8 a.m. Central right here on WCPT 820, the Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook as well. I want to remind you again that we have a survey that we want you guys to please fill out. We're looking for those of you that share information. We just need a favor from you, especially the folks that help spread the good information. So if you've ever shared something on WCPT or read that you've heard on WCPT or read on Heartland Signal, a clip, a story, a moment, something, we want to hear from you. And we want to build a network of people who help their communities stay informed. If you fill out the survey, you could be be entered into a drawing to win a $25 Visa gift card, and it'll only take a few minutes. Just go to heartlandsignal.com/share. Tell us how you pass information along, and again, that's heartlandsignal.com/share. You are a big part of how trustworthy pro-democracy news actually travels, and we want to learn from you. And Canada interviews. You just heard Read Showalter. I'm not sure if that interview specifically is going to be entered into the mix, but I did talk to him a little over a month ago, and you can find his interview as well as Patty's recent in-studio conversation with Annabelle Mendoza, Jeff Cohen, Phil Andrew, Neil Coate, Kat Abagazala, Daniel Tully, and Brushwa Amawali. Just go to the Canada Interviews tab at the top of our website, heartlandsignal.com. Of course, you can also search for those on all of those different services that you listen to your podcasts, including Apple and iTunes, Spotify, those good places amongst others. You guys may or may not know, I host the Sports Cubicle, 9 p.m. Right here on WCPT 820, as well as TuneIn. It's on 9 p.m. Sundays, and I co-host that with Mike Mercado, Devin Tingle, Dan Marver. It's usually a combination of the four of us that you might hear an interview or our takes on certain things about, the Chicago Bears and how horribly all four of us whiffed on our prediction, or maybe three of us, because I don't think Marver offered up his prediction, but how horribly we predicted the Bears-Eagles game on Black Friday, and my take on the Chicago-Green Bay game coming up this weekend, in which I think the Packers will win. But in the short time I have right now, I wanted to preview something that coming up on the show this weekend. We had Wendell Young. We talked to him earlier this week, and he's going to be on the show this Sunday. He works with the Chicago Wolves, legendary Chicago Wolves player. His number is retired, number one. I think he's the only player to win all 4 North American professional hockey trophies. And I talked to him about a historical moment that he was a part of, in which back when the Tampa Bay Lightning were an expansion team back in 1992, they played the first female ever player in NHL history, goaltender Manon Rhéaume, started a net for them. And Wendell was actually their regular starting goalie. And I had to ask him, you got a front row seat for history, kind of your take, your insight on it. And he gave us this answer, and I wanted you guys to hear it.
Manon Rhéaume being the first goalie to play in an NHL exhibition game. Actually, I walk into the rink, and Phil and Tony Esposito were management. They were a GM and assistant GM, and they were kind of talking. They're like, I go, you guys look stressed or whatever. And they go, yeah, we got to put Manon in. Everyone's here. The rink is packed. All the media's here. But what happens if she plays bad? And I go, this is your worry? They go, yeah, you're gonna play the first 2 periods, Wendell. She's going to play the third. And I go, you're going to let her sit around for 3 or 4 hours, worrying, being, stretched, warm up, and then tight, and then have to go in and waiting for that. I go, listen, start her. Everyone's here to see her. Start her. If things don't go well for her, I go 10 minutes in. I said, I'll go in and just say that was our plan. We're just splitting the periods. So
that's just a little preview of what we got for you this weekend on the Sports Cubicle. But I just saw that we have someone waiting on the line, and I wanted to get to his call. Paul from Seattle joins us in the last couple minutes we got. Paul, I'm sorry I didn't see this until just now, so I want to make sure that you get to say what you wanted to say before we wrap up today.
Yeah, no. I went back to you mentioning this guy who made the pipe bombs thought that the 2020 election was stolen. And this just goes back to, where would he have possibly gotten that idea?
Yep.
Except for the fact that that's what Donald Trump said. And that the real effort to steal the 2020 election happened on January 6th. And the reason I say that is, no matter what you think, when we vote for president in November every 4 years, that's not really the election for president. The election for president happens in December, when the electors from each state go to the state capital, Springfield, Olympia, whatever her state is, and that's who votes for president, based on what we do, how we vote in the state. And whether there's voter fraud or people voting when they shouldn't be has nothing to do with how the electors vote. The electors can vote any damn way they want to. And so the effort to overturn an election was how the electors voted. That vote is the one that gets certified on January 6th.
All right, Paul, I gotta cut you off because we're just running out of time right now. Thank you so much for calling in. Also want to thank our guests today, Read Showalter, John Parker, Rodger Sherman, for joining me. Of course, thank you to Lady B. Thank you to Andy Miles, Jerry Wolski, Patti Vasquez, and the rest of the WCPT family. So long, everyone. Thanks for having me today. This has been Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez, Paul Chivari filling in. We'll catch you over the weekend. We'll catch you next week. Thanks, everybody.
STIHL. Check off the wish list with instant savings and free battery offers on select STIHL tools. Shop online or in store. Now that's a steal.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow